All right. Well, thanks for stopping by the booth. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I keep saying to folks, like, this is the perfect job for me because I like to like meet people, but the busyness of the booth and everything like that is a little overwhelming sometimes. And so nice to get a chance to meet some new faces and shake some hands and all that sort of good stuff. So today I want to kind of go through your integration with the company, also with the industry, also who you guys are, how you fit in, all that sort of good stuff. I'll kind of let you give a little intro, and then we'll kind of ask a few questions and roll with it.
Cool, sounds good. So we're a systems integrator based out of the Northeast New York City area, though we do work all over the country. But started in 2005. Mm-hmm. My background is in electrical engineering, and that began to work its way into more AV, audio, video, broadcast audio, video systems. Yeah. And so currently we have two offices in the New York area, one in Hauppauge, Long Island, and one in Brooklyn. And we are supporting design and build projects for education, for sports, for news and entertainment. Also integrating with a lot of facilities that are beginning to take their traditional AV spaces, a conference room, and now they want to be able to go to air from any of those rooms. You know, right. Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. Yeah.
So what sort of systems are you guys in? Are you doing everything? Do you specialize in stuff? What is your niche that you guys handle?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, a few years ago we would have said, well, we build TV studios, right? It's control rooms and switchers and all the infrastructure equipment that supports all that, the cameras, the mics, the audio mixers, and all that. But honestly, over the last few years, it's really begun to meld together into with the technology and with a lot of the protocols that are out there, the NDI, SRT, Dante. Right. So, I mean, we anything that needs a camera or needs a mic. I mean, we've done radio projects. So I can't really say that we do stadium work as well. Okay. So, we're involved with replay systems and the big LED boards and things like that. So, I hate to sound like it's the same. It's not the same thing, but there's a lot of common technology and a lot of common approach. And what I see is that it's getting even more common. So it's, a few years ago, I mean, this goes back quite a few years, I guess, but the big theme at NAB was convergence. So like they had the banners and the posters hanging everywhere, but I really believe now it has converged. I mean, it's simply 2110. You got a bunch of IP ways to do things, but it's really amazing. Like I've had a lot of people come by. We can talk a little bit about how we're specifically working with you guys. But, for sure. But I have had people even just a few minutes ago shaking their head, going, "I can't believe I'm used to seeing a big, huge camera here. It's like you don't need it. The imagers are better. Yep. The control systems are better and more compact, more flexible, scalable. Those are all cliches, but it's true. Yeah,
I love that about the industry. There's like a common theme that's going on with these conversations that I've been having as to like how quickly things are ramping up, but how almost like portable and how quickly you can like get it. I'd be interested to know if you would compare and contrast like 2005 when things kind of kicked off for you guys. Right. And then now the difference is in like the same type of install. So like we're doing a studio, but back then it was this, and now everybody wants X, Y, and Z. What are the major differences that you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, obviously the last few years here start with the pandemic, right?
Sure.
So prior to that, there were customers that were interested in not many, but there were a few that were like, I want to take a Zoom meeting or a Microsoft Teams or some kind of video conferencing and bring that into my sort of more traditional broadcast production. Right. But those were few and far between, and it wasn't like a push really to do that. Starting like roughly 3 years ago, that became like a really important thing as to how do we do this. So you had manufacturers coming out with equipment that could help you do that. And we had to go into rooms. We retrofitted a lot of rooms to say, okay, well now you can bring in this Zoom meeting or Teams into your production platform,
Right.
and it's part. And so there's other things related there, like latency and the quality of the video, the quality of the audio.
Yeah.
But that's been a major shift where it's now part of the discussion right up front when you're planning a new facility.
Yeah.
So we're still going back and retrofitting certain places that we built before to allow for more of that video conferencing integrated, if you will.
Right.
But you got that going on, but you also have going on that you don't need to do things the way that you did in the past with maybe terrestrial fiber or satellite. There'll be some people be unhappy to hear this, but it's the truth.
I wish that more integrators like yourself would say things like that, because that's the constant conversation we're having, where it's like, well, I've been in the game for 30 years. It's like, yeah, but the game has changed so much in the past, like 5, where things are so much more dynamic and fluid, and even just portable, where guys are rolling up in Pelican cases and doing a full production and then shipping out that night. And like not paying for hotels and flights and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's really fascinating.
Well, I mean, you mentioned about 2005 to now.
Yeah.
I mean, from when our company started. I mean, I've been doing this before that.
Sure. Yeah.
But the conversations of redundancy and how do we get from point A to point B, which it would involve fiber or satellite, have really changed now, where a lot of what we've been doing has been network, IP based, either over a dedicated network, a VPN sort of connection, or just the internet. The encoding and decoding is secure and encrypted now. So there's been so many advancements, and I mean, how can you argue with saying, what do you want to do? You want to set up a camera? You need a mic? You need an IFB? Here, you can. That's what we're showing here at the booth with the help of BirdDog. Is a system what we're calling our fly pack. A fly pack back in the day used to be, it was heavy, and now one person could carry that thing around, set it up on their own, plug it in, turn it on, and within a few minutes you're up and running. And
so, do you find that you're doing like those deals? Like I had heard of a couple of use cases where it was like broadcasters or news stations and that sort of thing, where they'd have a kit that they'd ship to the host. This is pandemic, so they're shipping it to the host's house, and they'd set it up in their office. And it was like a one-page instruction: plug this in and do this. And once it was online, they'd use a product like Cloud or something like that, where it would get out to the internet and back to the production studio. But assembling that kit so that it was broadcast quality was, a big question as to like, how do we put it together and how do we integrate that into these like home offices and things that are, in rural America.
That's a great point. We had a lot of our customers say, well, the talent can't come into the building or doesn't want to come into the building. So they want to sit at home. How do we do this? And that discussion ranges from everything like, what's their background? What's the lighting like? I mean, are you trying to achieve what you had inside of a very expensive, nice, finished out, top level broadcast studio, or are we just trying to get the message out and have it be good? So there's always a balance there, right? But that's a great point you're making about we can build that fly pack, if you will, but who's going to set it up? And if there's a fair amount that is of technical work that needs to happen, and once you get things working, things don't always go perfectly until you get it tweaked out a little bit, right? So who's gonna, if you're on-air talent and you have no technical background, you're being expected to look at a laptop, read an interface, and go, oh, I gotta adjust this bit rate, or I gotta do this, or I gotta do that. And it's like that's a lot of people aren't comfortable with that or used to doing that. I will say though, just as a sort of a plug to BirdDog, is not a plug, but it's the truth, is that one of the reasons we settled on BirdDog was it's very easy to work with the interface and to understand what's going on there. So that's huge. It's a good point you're making, because the hands-on part of this has gone from being a PA or somebody that's in the field to the actual talent doing the part of the setup. So
and that goes into a lot of the conversation about like who's buying the camera, right? So Sony half-inch sensors. They're like broadcast standards, you know, the entry-level standards and that sort of thing. But like people who have no AV background are buying them.
Right.
And so now you have all these feature-packed cameras that are being delivered to folks that don't have the background that is assumed that you have when you get a sensor like that.
Exactly.
And so it's like how, you know, the integration into who's the talent, how savvy are they? Like it's a whole conversation. I can't even imagine how complex that must be for you because I deal with the training portion of like, oh, that feature is this. And, you know, we can work with customers understanding the product, but like the grand scheme of how does it all sing together and how do we make sure that you're getting the quality that you've requested and that sort of thing. Like it's a much broader question about integration, but if you can do it right, then there is a niche market that will come back to you every time for that sort of stuff. And I mean, I'm thrilled that we're a part of this conversation with you because this is exactly what we're doing. Like this is exactly, we're making it accessible to that level.
Exactly. I mean there's no doubt, you know, again, when I started in systems integration, there's a mentality, or there was a mentality of, or an approach that was, get in, do the project, and you finish the project, and you're done.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't happen anymore. And I like that because we're actually staying with our customers much longer and helping them. So the comfort level, the training, like working with guys like you to make sure that it's a smooth transition, because there's no way now. I mean, look, and honestly, in our industry, there is a shortage of guys that have, or women that maybe know how to read a rasterizer or a vector scope. You know, I mean, those are kind of not around too much anymore. But but that part of what I grew up on has definitely diminished. But that doesn't remove from the fact that you need to have quality.
Right.
I mean, in the beginning, people were saying, and again, by the beginning, I mean the beginning of the pandemic part of this, which drove a lot of this development, right?
Yeah, so, no, it really did. That's absolutely true.
But in the beginning of that, there were people that were accepting lower quality, or part of it was frustration of just like, okay, I gotta press this button or do this. I'm not used to doing that. So some of it was that. Some of it was technology not being matched up properly, maybe, or 100% optimized to do what it needed, you know, what the end user wanted it to do.
Right.
But I think now that's brought us to a point where people are, and that's not like, so what you had were like traditional broadcast entities that were now saying, okay, I mean, I know one entity, in fact, that spent quite a bit of money and time configuring edit machines and shipping them out to all the editors, saying, you're going to work from home.
Oh, wow.
We're going to set up a VPN.
Yeah.
You're going to do exactly what you were normally doing, but you're going to be able to do it from home on a machine that we configured for you. We imaged it, you know. So that mentality has really, you know, worked its way out through everything now at this point. So, well,
and I mean, I don't think we can call it over, but as COVID turns into what it will be, I'm interested to know what stays. Yeah. Like, and like how your business changes and how ours changes, because like cameras became, like, we couldn't make them fast enough. We couldn't keep them on the shelf. Right. As mostly guys like you selling them, we were just get them out the door and get them in front of the customer, because everybody was in front of a lens for 2 years. Right. And so I'm interested to know what stays, because we've got a lot of guys that come by now that say, oh, well, we're all remote, like we don't even have an office anymore. Right. And like big companies are like, well, we just decided everybody does remote and we just VPN in, or we all have a collective domain, or yada yada. And it's okay, but how do we still do face to face? How do we still make this a team? Right. You know, how do we still make this a company? Well, I can tell you, John, that you know, again, my background, I love the action that goes on in a live control room. You know, everyone's yelling and yelling, and the dynamics that happen there. You really can't get that when people are not in the same room together. Right. Yep. Sometimes that just is confusion going on in a control room. But, but you know, I think that that's another great point. I mean, I believe that, you know, you're going to see. I don't think any of this is going to go away 100%. I think that it's going to, what we're getting now are other options and other more tools in our toolkit to say, you know, well, I can do it this way, I can do it that way. And you raised another great point about what, you know, you're sending a crew out on the road to travel. You can reduce that now. You know, you don't need, or in some cases maybe eliminate it. So,
Yeah, it's a great time. I mean, I've over the years I've had people say to me, like, when IP began rolling out, I had somebody say to me, oh, this is you're not going to be around anymore, man. You're not going to be making wires and doing this. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
no,
it never happens.
No.
Like it gives the producers, the creative people,
yes,
other ways to do it, get their message out, get their content out. It
Yes.
sounds cliche, but it's very true.
But see, that was the key, and that's the word that popped into my brain when you were just saying that, was we are now seeing the industry be creative again in providing solutions for customers and to like enable them to also be creative. I mean, that's what video content is, right? It's the creation of something new, you hope. And that it permeates the entire industry. Even the integrators. It's like you're being creative again in providing solutions that are workable, tangible for people to actually use, and are sustainable over long periods of time. I like the idea of now we have a touch point with our customers more often, because it keeps us in the loop of what's going on, what do you guys need, how is it evolving, and that, I mean, that's a huge, it's kind of like an unsung hero in the whole conversation, because when you have the support team that underlines the entire production, then again, it frees up people to have that creativity and to try new things.
Well, if I'll mention a recent project that we work with you guys on, and it's basically tying together two theaters, one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx. These are performance theaters, right?
Okay.
Not a place that you would normally think about TV production or video production. If they wanted to do something for a television production, they maybe rent a truck, or they bring in a network truck or something. But they had decided that, like, here's an example of what the pandemic did, was they because nobody could go in their theater, they're like, well, how do we get our message out? Are we just going to shut down here? We can't do that. So they contacted us, and we began to say, well, look, we could do this. Like, put 3 cameras in your grid facing the stage, and then another camera facing back towards the audience. And then we take all those streams and we bring them back to a software platform, and we manage them over the cloud interface with BirdDog, and integrate the audio with all that. We did that for them and tied together 2 theaters, one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx. And now, which was not something that had crossed their mind, they just wanted to use current technology, to make sure they could still get their performances out, their message out to their audience, right? But we began to work with them. We said, look, we brought them to our office, and we showed them the interfaces, and we did a little demo for them, and they were actually pressing buttons and going and clicking the mouse and the keyboard, and going, wow. So now they have the ability to treat both their theaters as like a TV studio, and take remotes into each other. So you have an event going on in Manhattan, one going on in the Bronx, and they can sub-switch them together and cut together a program that goes out to social media or to linear distribution, if you want to bring it back that way. And I got to tell you, out of all the projects we've done, that was one of the most satisfying for me, because they were thrilled. When they realized like what they were going to now look like and sound like, and have that kind of visibility to their audience, that for probably about a year that nobody could go in the theater, at least, right? It was really satisfying. And
that even opens them up to like a new market of folks that would engage with them and what they're creating.
Exactly, John. Exactly. So you start to see the light bulbs go off. Like, wait a minute, so that's
that's one piece of this whole 2-year experiment with the industry growing and all that like will stick.
Exactly.
After everyone's back at the theater and they're attending shows, it's like that will stick.
It's not going to be like, oh, okay, one day we'll pack up those cameras and put everything away, because we're never going to use that again. It's like, in fact, I see it growing. I see that they will begin to, their head of production said to me, well, sometimes we have like a live music thing, but it's outside. Could we make that work too? I'm like, yeah, you could do that. Like, it's really, not that the other work we do isn't satisfying, but to be able to use the technology and see these people big smiles on their faces, like, and watch them start to burn through like the thought process of like, wait a minute, I could do this, I could do that. It's
really, gonna be super cool to be that guy that gets to like hey, but also there's this open door.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so it's
where can people find you online? Or I know you're in what's your main office?
So our main integration office is in Hauppauge, Long Island. So, but we have a smaller engineering and management office that's in Industry City in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Though that's where we're based out of. We do work all over the country, but you could check out our website, www.kmh-integration.com.
Okay.
There's contact info there and ways to reach out to us there.
Great. So if people have projects or ideas they want to flush out, you guys be able to walk them through some of that.
Yeah. I think we have over the years have always invested back in our own people.
Right.
And BirdDog was a partner with us to be able to say, okay, we want to take a look at this. So we built a system in the Brooklyn office and then built these little fly packs. We tried one at MetLife Stadium. It worked perfectly.
Nice.
So we've connected together these different locations with these fly packs using the internet, using these protocols with BirdDog's help and in the BirdDog cameras. And I mean, it's really interesting. Sometimes I wonder if maybe we're a little ahead of the curve on it, or if I always worry that we're too far behind it. But no, I think as people get more comfortable and they realize that this is a viable, productive way to do things, it's a good spot to be in.
Well, if you keep partnering with the cutting edge companies, you're gonna have a lot of those moments.
yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, Kevin, man, I really appreciate you coming by. I've had a blast talking to you.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Very good.
We are, we're excited to do more with you guys. So thank you so much.
And we are. There's a couple that I can't announce yet, but there's going to be more of that.
Okay, so stay tuned to social media for some of that stuff. Okay,
you and I can do an update soon.
That would be awesome. I have a studio, so we could bring you into, just pipe you in over the internet, and we could do a little chat about that stuff.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
You too, man.
We'll see you guys around.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.